Welcome Stardust. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Stephanie and I'm a crystal therapist and mystic. In today's video, I wanted to talk about a little bit about crystal therapy and the different definitions and associations associated to crystals. Now, I've been a spiritual enthusiast and seeker pretty much all of my life. And I was a child of the 80s, teen of the 90s, and in my 20s, the early 2000s. And now in 2024, I am 43. So I've been around a little bit. And in my research and as a crystal therapist and mystic, I've often wondered, where did the origins begin when it came to the phenomena of actually categorizing crystals and dedicating different elements, associations, personalities, different types to those crystals? Who was the council deciding all that? Because I wasn't invited to that meeting. So we're just going to have a brief conversation on a couple of my theories, and I hope this will be interesting and exciting for you to start asking your own questions so we can begin the dialogue of, how did the phenomena of categorizing crystals or labeling different spiritual things start? Okay? So with that said, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to create insightful and informative metaphysical videos for you, dear Stardust. I want to reach 1,000 subscribers so I can finally apply to the YouTube partnership program and I can stop asking you guys this at the beginning of every video. But if you, dig what I'm all about and you're interested, please consider subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment. It would be ever so greatly appreciated. I believe that the spiritual community is a melting pot of different cultures, belief systems, and ideologies all melt into one. So we're going to get a lot of different perspectives from a lot of different age groups, traditions, and people that feel that they are in authority to proclaim certain types of spiritual truths. Whether you're a novice or a veteran, it's important to look historically within anthropology and theology to actually go back in time and see some concrete evidence of said declarations, especially when it comes to religious and or spiritual teachings. Now, the spiritual community is not something that just happened overnight. It stems from, eons of time of secret societies trying to gather mystical information as opposed to those that were persecuting them, sometimes in mainstream religions and sometimes just the monarchy of those times. So most of the time in the past, people had to do things in secret, hence the word occult, hidden, to be hidden secret knowledge. And those secret societies only divulged those types of knowledge and information to initiates. And those initiates would have the honor to continue the lineage from generation to generation, either orally or written, their secret teachings. Now, this is also seen in indigenous Aboriginal cultures throughout the world, from one generation, from the elders, the medicine man, the medicine woman, teaching their ancient knowledge from one generation to the next. So it always stays alive. And in the spiritual community, it's been diluted and they try their best to revival a lot of these ancient mystery teachings from different cultures from around the world. But we have to be mindful of being ethical, not always jumping the gun to synchronize everything together. Each culture and tradition is to be honored, and cultural appropriation needs to be respected. And we also have to take into consideration that sometimes those that are gurus or leaders or teachers or those in authority, or they claim authority over a subject matter, that they don't fall into the pitfalls of egotism, narcissism, and just wanting fame and power and recognition. So these are human things. In the subject matter of tonight, I was actually kind of wondering, when we look at a crystal definition book, we look at tiger's eye, and it says that it's good for the eyes, digestion, throat, and bones. It's good for this chakra, solar plexus, third eye. It has a vibration medium. And those claims are actually channeled information, and those that are spiritual teachers throughout the ages, what they proclaim to be. Those in position of having publications, literature, editing, those are the ones that decided what went into the book. Same thing like the Council of Nicaea deciding what went into the Bible and what didn't, or what didn't make the final cut. It's a selected group of individuals that declare that this is so, which may or may not always be the case. One thing that we can verify is that, certain minerals come from different parts of the world. And this says the source, South Africa, Australia. That's where tiger's eyes are mined from. And of course, we can always verify the hardness, the moth scale of a gemstone, and to see whether or not it can be put in water or salt water. With tiger's eye, it says it needs to avoid water. And it's things like this that people who are spiritual enthusiasts just automatically assume that it's gospel. And it's not, okay? It's not. There is valid information, there is trusted information, but there's no absolute. What I'm trying to make the point is there's no absolute truth or absolutism, because all of this information is from channeled individuals throughout the spiritual communities over time. Okay? And over time, people pretty much have a consensus of, okay, well, tiger's eye is always going to start meaning that because these teachers have been repeating that for X number of years, so we must follow the trend. Then it becomes a trend, then it gets set in stone, so to speak. But it's not necessarily the ultimate truth. And what I wanted to bring into a friendly debate is, what are the origins of stuff like this? Well, the first point that I'm going to share with you is who are the decision makers and who are the superstars of the metaphysical age. You have to go back in time and you have to look at how did the quote-unquote spiritual community start. The New Thought movement, the New Age movement. It's not just something that was popularized, definitely in the 1960s with the whole hippie movement, but it was actually started, the foundation started with, yes, Helena Blavatsky bringing over from the East different types of teachings from Hinduism, Buddhism, and different cultural traditions from around the world. Indigenous aboriginals, their creation stories, the masters, and different types of esoteric information from the East, bringing it to the West or bringing it back to the public's eye, and really having its own platform to be its own creed. Because in the past, you're either a part of mainstream religion or it's heresy. And then we had all the inquisitions with the witch trials. You couldn't just be whatever you wanted to be in the past. It was very prejudiced. Over time, especially in the late 1800s, early 1900s, we had a revival of the spiritualist renaissance, so to speak. And things of that nature became more popularized. And Helen Blavatsky is definitely the one that started that with the Theosophy Society, and then bringing in a lot of different players. And then over time, that formed its own organization, and it has evolved throughout the decades. Now, with that also came the movement, like I mentioned, in the 1960s and 70s with the hippie movement, the Beatles, really having a new focus on Hinduism, yoga practices, what gurus had to say from India, and a lot of the Sanskrit and the chakra systems, energy work, healing practices were actually becoming more popularized because of quote-unquote pop culture and people in that main light that was interested in those types of things. Now, the occult sciences have always been around: natural magic, astrology, alchemy, understanding the different areas of classical esoterica in philosophical theology. It's always been around, and it's popped up throughout different epochs and different decades and ages by various different types of teachers. And I'm kind of saying it in general because it's not something singular. So the thread that I'm trying to bring through is, where did this come from in regards to crystal therapy? Who popularized it? And it's actually hard to kind of like narrow down when things started. But since, you know, I'm up for discussion, I think it probably started in the late 70s and early 80s, where people were starting to develop new paradigms of how to heal. There was a lot of information that was now being accessible through books, through people doing different types of lectures. I mean, there's all of these fascinating characters that kind of presented themselves, you know, and explaining different types of spiritual philosophies. I'm not going to list them all now because I want to keep this general, but you know, even though it's not one teacher really popularizing crystal therapy, I will show obviously some of the leading forces, but I actually think that the formulation of the crystal dictionary was probably started mainly in the 80s and in the 90s. I think there were a lot of spiritual teachers, motivational speakers. You know, I'll just show some pictures of different people. There's so many. And as a collective, especially in the West, you know, they were starting to realize that they can make a profit, that this is also a business. And so thus industry and marketing, you know, started. So with that, they need structure, they need some kind of database, they need some kind of dictionary. So I'm sure different pockets in different places in the West started to formulate that, okay, well, crystals, okay, let's use crystals for the chakras, because people were really into, you know, different types of Sanskrit text and the yoga and the meridian system, a little bit of Eastern things with Chinese medicine, you know, kind of like linking the mineral world to different things. Now, I'm sure that channeled information, psychic mediums, you know, had a hand in this, and they too were contributing to this. I don't think it's one set person, but I think that it actually became mainstream and just part of the propaganda. And I say that loosely, meaning that it's common knowledge now with these types of books by all kinds of authors, is that over time, these publications or these companies or these spiritual groups, you know, through their companies declared things. So it was a revival, reinvention, and reinterpretation of different types of esoteric teachings, and then associating them with various practices. In the case of crystal therapy, crystals, you know, different crystals got associated with chakras. Now, did someone do a trial and error? You know, was there a case study? Was this done more on a scientific level? Probably not. But different people over time probably figured that, say, one that really stands out is rose quartz. Yeah, so rose quartz, because of its pink nature and its energy signature, it's associated with love. It's associated with compassion. It's associated with the divine feminine, and you can just feel that automatically. So I'm sure that there was an instinctual intuition in these different pioneers to say, okay, rose quartz is with the heart chakra. It's associated with love, fertility, compassion, and motherhood, and it can provide a healing for XYZ. And just being with the mineral kingdom, I'm sure there was channeled information from the quartz to the individual. And there are many individuals that believe that they can communicate with the mineral kingdom. Nikola Tesla is definitely one that understood the consciousness of crystals and how the mineral kingdom, it's its own consciousness and of service and part of Gaia and the Earth's gifts to humanity. There's a lot that can be done with crystals, both for positive and for negative, as seen in the lore of Atlantis, and using different types of crystalline technologies. But that's for another video. So I do believe that there's probably validity to the channeled information, because there are some crystals where, yes, it's so obvious that this would be associated with love. But there are other crystals I find that, I've worked with, and that they say it's meant for something, but I feel it's meant for something else. And that's okay. I mean, everybody has their own opinions. Like, one of the most common ones, which is actually a more recent man-made crystal, is Angel Aurora. So Angel Aurora is said and marketed to channel angels, the angelic kingdom. Where did that come from? It comes from a whole bunch of people that are channeling, that are trying to promote it as such. But doesn't mean that in ancient Egypt, because Aurora probably wasn't even found in its natural habitat, wasn't used to channel angels. Maybe something else was used to channel angels. So it's little discrepancies like that one needs to be mindful, that there's a lot of fabrication for service to self when it comes to spiritual matters. So just to conclude, one of the most leading figures as crystal therapy or crystal enthusiasts or advocates is Judy Hall. And Judy Hall did a lot of books explaining the different types of categories for crystals and how to use them for all types of energy work. And it's a great book, and I love it. I love that it's like a dictionary. I love that you can get all the definitions and meaning, and you can associate with them and all that stuff. But as someone that is a psychic medium and has worked with the mineral kingdom, what I've noticed from my own personal gnosis is that there's a lot of exaggeration and fluff when it comes to the marketing of crystal therapy and categorizing them. Not each crystal needs to be pigeonholed into one set category. There's a lot of people that like to say, don't use this crystal with this crystal, especially the whole hype when it comes to moldavite. People are like, oh, moldavite, it's an asteroid from another cosmic galaxy, and if you wear it, it's going to cause disruption in your life, and it's going to mess with your brain, and it's going to do all this like really intense stuff. So I have a real issue with those that use sensationalism and a lot of hype, and really saying that this crystal is going to disrupt your life, and be warned or beware. If you had never heard that, which would be a test or a placebo, if you had never heard that and had experienced it or not experienced it, then you would have more of a genuine neutral answer of how that crystal relates to you in your relationship with that crystal. I've worked with moldavite. When I communicate with Moldavite, I don't sense that. I wear Moldavite every day, and it does not give me the heebie-jeebies. It does not give me migraines. It doesn't disbalance me. Now, some people would say, oh, that's because you're a starseed and you're part of the Galactic Federation and you blah, 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 and all that stuff. Okay, like, whether you believe or not those types of spiritual philosophies is fine, but don't say it's the be all and end all, because the mineral kingdom, for what they've said to me, is that it's less about the creations of the mind, which is fantasy and illusion, and it's really about the energy and the intention, and where they choose as its own consciousness species to interact with humans. They're their own being. And it's difficult because you're like, it's almost like you think of it as an inanimate object, but it is an extension of consciousness at a different level. It's not sentient in the sense that it feels pain or it feels time or it feels trapped. Although there are some theories in anthroposophy that I will talk about, which is Rudolf Steiner's work when it comes to crystals and what he thinks the mineral kingdom is and all that stuff, which is a different subject. But I would recommend that don't take other people's opinions. Don't believe everything you read in books. Do your own hypothesis and your own trial and error tests, and really experience the mineral kingdom and their consciousness and their ability to communicate with you, to heal you, to work with you at your own personal gnosis. The only thing I'm an advocate for is to treat your crystals with respect, with reverence, with genuine intentions, and of course to service for others and, of the lighter path. If you want to use them for darker forces, I have to be neutral because this is a free will universe in this dualistic reality. One has to remain neutral. But I don't advocate for that. I advocate for peace, prosperity, and love and abundance for all. Sovereign spirit, freedom for all. And that includes freedom for all beings, the consciousness of all beings. The mineral kingdom is at a stage of evolution, and they had sacrificed their aspect of consciousness to be part of the evolution of the earth and the evolution of the human soul. And they have enormous codes and energy and teachings and downloads and comfort and friendship to give you if you open yourself psychically to them. All they ask in return is to take care of them, to nourish them, to put them in a safe and quiet space, to live out their existence. So I don't know if I truly revealed the origins of where all of these definitions come from, but there's definitely a rhyme and reason to everything, especially when it comes to the chakras. Sometimes these crystals, based on their color, will be associated to a specific chakra. Sometimes due to either an element, earth, air, fire, water, they'll be associated to that. Or they'll be associated based on which culture they come from, what they've been used for in different cultures. Like, for example, do I have it here? Oh, do I not have it here? Oh, I don't have it here. But like, say, for example, lapis lazuli in ancient Egyptian traditions was used for a lot of different types of ceremonies and magic. So lapis lazuli is used for a lot of different magical practices, but it's also used for soothing and to help with sleep. So that's the thing. It's like something that's so purposeful for one culture throughout history, different down the road. Some other group will say, no, it's good for soothing and for sleep. So, I kind of was like, yeah, that's just everyone's personal interpretation. And I really want to break the mold, break the propaganda of, pseudo-spirituality. Spirituality that is, just for sensationalism. You have to be grounded. You have to be realistic. You have to understand that the marketing and the propaganda and the spiritual business behind these empires of spiritual teachers, sometimes it's not based in actual historical fact. It's based on their revival of what they interpret things to be, which is channeled information, opinions, and just their own personal gnosis. I hope that was helpful. Please leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I would love to know what you think about crystal therapy, what you think happened in history, and if you have any more insightful sources on how this started, like who invented the dictionary of crystal meanings. I will try to do maybe a more formal kind of video, digging deeper into its origins and throwing out some more references, because I love doing that. But if you happen to know any, please leave it in the comment below. I would very much love to read your comments. With that said, I want to wish you all a most excellent day or night wherever you are in this big world. And remember, dear Stardust, everything that you're searching for is already within you. Until next time, planet people.